everyone. Welcome to another Facebook Live with yours truly. I'm Alisa Vitti, founder of the Flow Living Hormone Center. I'm the creator of the MyFlow period tracking app, and I am the creator of the cycle syncing method and the best-selling author of Woman Code. So I come here to you live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about, all the things that we need to know to live healthier, smarter, inside our female hormonal biochemical reality. And that is always really exciting. Some people call that biohacking. I'm being referred to as a pioneer in female biohacking. Whatever, however you want to think of it, what I'm interested in is optimizing our health as women, getting the information that you need to you in a way that makes it easy to digest and, of course, to use. So I'm excited to be here with all of you today. Today we're talking about something that I don't get to talk about often enough. And I mentioned it in Woman Code, years ago when that was published. And it's something that is now becoming a bigger part of the conversation for women. And hello, everyone. Hey, Kat Ann. Yay, every Thursday. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what you're interested in learning about specifically today and today's topic, because I know some of you are here because you know what the topic is. So I feel like I can't get my camera straight today. Well, we'll do our best. Full disclosure, just because I'm a human being, my kid has been sick for the past couple of days with some virus that's been going around. So I have been up with her most nights for the past couple of nights. So if I seem a little lower energy than I normally do, I am tired from not sleeping enough due to my kid's cold, and I'm also fighting off whatever it is that she had. These little toddlers, they're little petri dishes of things. Anyway, so thank you for bearing with me. Hi, Sierra from Mississippi. Hey, Ginger from Atlanta. Hey, Kala. Kala, is it Kala or Kayla? Because you're here every week, and I want to make sure I get that right. I feel like I'm saying it differently. All right. Every time. Okay. So today we're talking about something near and dear to my heart, which is this aspect that came out of my research into the intersections of our hormones and our brain chemistry. And this is sort of this concept of okay, Kayla, cool. She was just being creative, your mom. Thank you, Candace. Yes, she's feeling much better today. The fever broke, but now I'm knackered out. I need a vacation. So anyway, when I was looking at the intersection between hormones and brain chemistry, what struck me was sort of this missing piece in our time management and productivity conversation. When we think about productivity, I know I was taught, I'm sure you were taught, you got to work hard, you got to do more, you got to be busy, right? That's kind of the culture, right? So I'm curious, before I dive into this topic, how do you feel about time management? How do you feel about your general ability to get things done? Do you always feel stressed that you're not doing enough? I'm curious how this is currently for you in your experience of time. So, we're all taught, I certainly was taught to do more, push, keep going, strive for more, just do it. And what I've learned, not only just from experience, but also from sort of this research into our biochemistry, is that while this is a good thing, it's good to be industrious, it's good to do a lot, it's good to have that, kind of ambitious nature. It's not sustainable and it's not how your body is wired. So let me put it to you another way, because we're all so plugged in these days, right? So your computer, your laptop, your device, your phone, your iPad, whatever you have, right? Let's say you were to just leave that on, right? You just like turned it on and left it on. You didn't have it plugged into anything, any power source, right? You know for certain that eventually the machine would run out of power and it would shut down, right? Us too. It turns out, us too. And, you know, it seems like even though that's logical, the actual issue is our expectations based on the education that we're getting about what our chronobiology. So, and this shifted, you know, if I would think of it from an anthropological point of view, you know, started changing with the Industrial Revolution. But, you know, we need to upgrade and update our understanding of what we can do from a human point of view. And yes, it's true, and I am guilty of this too. You know, I can invent work at the speed of thought. I can invent things to do and add to my to-do list at the speed of thought, which is super fast and unending. But what I can actually physically do, moving through space and time to bring to fruition and to complete, takes a whole different set of tools that is not derived from my thoughts. And so it's really, really interesting to understand, again, the mind-body connection here, which is not this woo-woo thing. It is actually the endocrine system. What connects the mind and the body is the endocrine system. You know, you have these glands in your brain. They are sending signals to the rest of the endocrine glands in the body, and then the body works synergistically. And how, of course, perfect that our master regulating glands of the endocrine system are highly sensitive and have been, you know, have evolved over millennia to be responsive to the inputs of light and dark. And your body, your ovulation, your everything is very sensitive to this interplay of light and dark. And this is just one aspect of chronobiology that we're going to talk about today, and why I want you to know about it has to do with, you know, a new way of working and productivity that I want to put out to you today as something to explain and experiment with, so that you can break free from this construct that is making you sick. Because, you know, as you know, I've talked extensively about how women's hormonal issues are on the rise in unprecedented historical ways, from idiopathic infertility, meaning no known cause, to the rates of PCOS and fibroids and endometriosis. And of course, this has to do with the increase in endocrine disruptive chemicals, but it also has to do with our endocrine disruptive lifestyle. And for women, that means something very specific, right? And specifically, this means, and we haven't had a chance to discuss this during our Facebook Live weekly jam session, but, you know, no time like the present. Specifically, this endocrine disruptive lifestyle, the biggest challenge, the biggest meta way that I could describe this to you, because there's many different facets of how it shows up, but the biggest way that this sort of all ties together is that you as a female are trying to squeeze yourself into a 24-hour chronobiological biorhythm, when you, in fact, contain two biorhythmic clocks, the 24-hour clock and the 28-day hormonal clock. And you live with these two sets of timing, if you will, these two clocks, starting at puberty and lasting until your very last bleed, which then begins your postmenopausal years. So you have this for approximately 4 decades of your life. And for 4 decades of your life, if you're not working with that second clock, what I know for sure, and what you're probably already experiencing, is that you will have increased symptoms, PMS, and ovulatory cycles, stress, anxiety, depression, thyroid problems, infertility, low libido, on a physical level. On an emotional and psychological level, you're going to feel like there's always something wrong with you. Like, why don't you have enough willpower to just do it every day? Or what's wrong with me that I can't manage my time perfectly? Or, you know, all the negative inner self-talk that shows up from just, again, it's just, we haven't been given the right information, not only to keep our hormones healthy, but also how to even understand how to use what we have to our advantage. And when we're not using it to our advantage, and we're trying to force ourselves into a chronobiological rhythm that goes against our rhythm, of course it's going to be problematic. And here's a great example of that, like the famous nurses study that they did up in Boston, following nurses who were working the night shift, right? They were just tracking that one shift to the chronobiological situation, right? So that one shift was, what if people work at night and sleep during the day? Well, they found that for women, that caused major disease risk and increase in heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes. This is just one shift that can create a whole host of disorders in the body. When you are for 4 decades not factoring in your 28-day hormonal reality, but instead trying to squeeze yourself into a 24-hour existence, you can only imagine that it's going to cause a whole host of problems. And not just imagine it, you're likely already experiencing the side effects of doing that. So I'm curious, because this is supposed to be I'm imagining a lot of you are going, oh my God, right now. So I want to hear, what do you think of that? Or do you feel like this is happening to you, are you having a little aha moment? Are you recognizing that, in fact, yes, you are sort of working with the wrong chronobiology and it is impacting your health and your emotional state? I am curious what this is. Are you recognizing that this inner critical voice now has an origin and that has nothing to do with you, in fact, that this thought is just based on misinformation or withheld information or overlooked information? Let's not forget to underscore here that since really the beginning of modern medicine, most research has been done on male biochemistry and postmenopausal women. Why? Because they don't have to factor in this cyclical hormonal effects on their experimental controls. So a lot of the information that we're given that is alleged to be universally applicable is actually only applicable to those that have just the single clock chronobiological existence. But for those of us with the dual clock, it's a whole different thing. And that's obviously why I created the cycle syncing method, to address this both on a nutritional and fitness point of view, but also the applications into our cognitive performance, our emotional productivity, creativity aspects is just humongous. Okay, so Serene's saying, oh my God, this was my self-conversation for so long. I always knew something more was at play, and that each week, if my cycle changed me in several ways, it just did never grasp to using it to my advantage. I always felt unpredictable when I, in fact, was predictable. I know. I mean, can you imagine being told at 12, like when, sex ed class, like, okay, you're going to get your period if you haven't already gotten it. And what that really means is that you're actually going to adopt a second biorhythmic clock. And that means that you need to care for yourself in different ways each week, but also it means that you get to be creative and productive in different ways each week, and you want to play to those strengths each week of your cycle. Can you imagine the trajectory of your career, of your life, of your choices, of your emotional happiness and fulfillment as a human being, how that would have been shifted if that had been the information you were given at 12? I just wanted to sit with that for a second. So, Sierra, you're always dealing with inner turmoil, specifically a negative voice. You put yourself down and feel like a project that will never be fixed. Well, yeah, of course. Of course, that's how you feel. In fact, let me talk about perfectionism. I have personally grappled with the construct of perfectionism in my own self, and I've worked with so many women who struggle with it. In fact, I would say it is one of the unifying dysfunctions that I've seen. I don't think I have worked with a client who does not struggle with perfectionism. And I've been thinking about it and thinking about it for almost 20 years. And, finally I've had like a new brain connection about it in the construct of this biorhythmic clock, which is that perfectionism for women, really, because I'm always interested in the root cause. Like, where did this come from? How do we all have this problem? Why are we plagued by it as women much more than men? What is going on? And, when I look at it, really, if I could boil it down to one thing, I think it really comes down to the fact that when you are not told that you have this other cyclical biorhythmic clock, and you are surrounded by a culture that operates in this very static, right? We'll call it static because it is very static, right? It's you wake up, you go, get as much done. You got 24 hours in a day, go to sleep, wake up, rinse and repeat. Same every day. Be the same every day. Work out at the same intensity every day. Eat the same diet every day. Whichever diet you're following, making sure it's the same every day. Be your best every day. It's static. You have to be like this every day at your peak, whatever your peak is. That's the goal of our culture. That's what we're conditioned to believe and expect of ourselves. So as a female, if you're trying to organize yourself to achieve that peak static energy the same way every 24 hours, right? And you realize somewhere in your intuitive inner wisdom that this is not possible because your body keeps changing the biochemical conversation, you start to feel like you have to be perfect. You start to strive for this like calculus, like infinity, like you're never going to actually reach it. But you want to strive for that perfectionism every day. The goal is to try to make yourself, contort yourself, twist yourself, squeeze yourself to be the same every day. And that fundamentally, I believe, is where all of our perfectionism comes from. And your desire for perfectionism, in my experience, dissolves immediately, instantly, and forever the moment you acknowledge that you have a second biorhythmic clock and the moment that you embrace a cyclical lifestyle. Because there's no reason to be perfect. You're supposed to change. The goal is no longer static perfection, or I'm using perfection as the placeholder for like the static sameness every day. Instead, you're going to drop that altogether and you're going to embrace dynamic change. That's going to be your hallmark of success. Your milestone of achievement is, am I changing? Am I doing different things each week? How am I adapting to where I am? And how much more energy is that building up in my body so I can keep doing more? That's what the trade-off is. You get to get rid of perfectionism, heal from it, which is really a wounding from the sort of patriarchal culture that we live in. And you get to embrace you get to sort of step into a new paradigm that puts your female biorhythmic reality at the center, as the axis that you spin around. You don't need to spin around the 24-hour axis. Wait till you're postmenopausal, then you can go do that again. But while you're in those 4 glorious decades of cycling, that's the axis that you want to spin around, is your, okay, Olga, I'm reading this. So true. Had built myself from scratch with the help of the method, the cycle syncing method, but still catch myself often on that broken logic of success that equates super stressed lifestyle. Like I fear I lose if I have enough rest, sleep, etc., that some days I need more than the others. It's so important that you talk about the mindset, the root cause. Yeah. Olga, that's so beautiful to share that, because the struggle is real. I mean, how could we expect that, millennia of conditioning, and just in your own personal lifetime, all the conditioning you've received from society, that there is one way to achieve, right? Which is constant pushing and being the same every day. I mean, even our most celebrated success gurus predicate their work on 24-hour chronobiological patterns. None of them talk about the female second biorhythmic clock, except me. But that's fine. But I'm gonna do my best to make this a more well-known concept. And so you have to really acknowledge that you are gonna feel, whoa, it's going to feel sometimes a little scary or trippy, or, you're going to have these types of thoughts like, oh no, I'm relaxing, something bad is going to happen. Or I'm not pushing myself like crazy today. This is bad. You're going to feel some residual transitional feelings, and that's okay. And I too felt those feelings. And for me, I think it's because I'm from New England and I really love a good structure. The structure of the practice of cycle syncing is my life raft. It's what I hold on to in those exact moments where I'm like, oh gosh, but everything says this. And I'm like, well, let me hold on to the science of what's true. And the science of what's true for my reality, even though the world is saying the sky is green, over here, I know that I have these 4 distinct hormonal ratios each week, and those affect me in specific ways, and they need to be acknowledged and cared for in specific ways, period. Regardless of what popular commentary is, that's a fact. And I can hold on to science with all the knuckles and all the fingers and all the strength that I have, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other with the practice. And then it outruns the thoughts, right? So I keep putting that one foot in front of the other. I keep doing the cyclical practice, and lo and behold, the things I was worried about, I get to see don't hold water in my cyclical experience. I'm like, oh, in fact, it's the opposite. Oh, in fact, I got so much more done because I took this downtime, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really a profound thing to have a structure, because without the structure, I think it's so hard to stay centered and not to get sucked into the sort of energetic vortex of the 24-hour, masculine model, because it is the model that runs things at the moment. But not for long, as we know, things are changing. So I want to just also offer some thoughts here, that we know that it's bad for our bodies to try to force ourselves into this model. It's causing symptoms. And you already know this, when you push yourself too hard, you don't eat right, you don't sleep right, your symptoms around your period are worse. Doing that over the course of your reproductive years can have, huge effects on your hormonal health, short-term and long-term. But even if that's something that you feel like you can tolerate, from a product, because we're here to talk about productivity and success, even corporate America thinks, believes, knows, has put funding behind, studied, researched, Harvard Business School, major Fortune 500 companies, they all agree that continuous productivity as a work model in culture, corporate culture, is bad for people and profits. And of course, they're interested mostly in the profit part, but it has diminishing returns, right? On an employee's output, productivity, and creativity, and their health. So that ends up costing the employer money if they're kind of creating a culture where you have to just like go all the time. So major companies have invested millions of dollars into bringing wellness programs into their corporate culture. To European countries have encouraged shorter work days because they've found that the employees are more productive and healthier long term, and this increases the company's profit and reduces their health expenses as a company. So it's even if you think and you have those fears that you're not going to be successful if you don't push all the time, corporate America already thinks that that's a bad idea. So if it's something that they think is worth investing in, right, to have people working less, working smarter, living a more sustainable, healthy lifestyle within the corporate environment, that might be a thing to help you feel like you could maybe give yourself permission to try this too. Because I understand the need for that security and the comfort of facts, because we've been conditioned as women to not trust our intuition, not believe our own thoughts. And so I'm just trying to shore you up with enough research here so that you feel confident to start to listen to the impetus of your mind-body mechanism. And then the more you do listen to it and put it into practice, you're going to be like, oh yeah, why didn't I start this sooner? So I think that's really important. Now that's, by the way, corporate America, that's research that's gender non-specific. But for women, because I want to sort of highlight what makes you most productive and successful today, as I mentioned, you have these two clocks. So what does that mean? How does that work? And how can you start to apply that today? So let's kind of go through the basics really quick. And of course, this is outlined in Chapter 5 of Woman Code. This is of course, something that the MyFlow period tracking and cycle syncing app will show you how to do in each phase of your cycle. But let me just give you like the quick rundown. So you have 4 phases of your cycle: follicular phase, ovulatory phase, luteal phase, and menstrual phase, or the bleeding week. And in these 4 phases, you have different hormonal ratios. I'm not going to go and take the time to explain the ratios. You can quickly see that on the app if you want to learn more about that. But what I do want to tell you is what they offer you cognitively from a productivity, creativity, and success point of view. So in the follicular phase, because of the levels of estrogen, you are more able, you're naturally more inclined to kind of look at the big picture and set your plan, create a project plan, make decisions about what to focus on. You have this added level of discernment in the follicular phase. I say, okay, I want to work on this, but not this. I'm going to do it this way and not this way. That's really powerful. You don't always feel that clarity. And if you're self-employed, if you work in a company, you want to harness that. You want to plan to know that, okay, this week of my cycle, I'm going to feel very clear about what I need to be focusing on. And so I'm going to carve out some time to make sure that I sit down and make that plan so that I don't feel like, I'm kind of just spinning my wheels. Oftentimes without a plan, we feel very busy, but we don't know where we're going. So planning is very critical for success. It's one of those universal strategies that any success coach would tell you. You have to plan out specific goals that you can then measure and blah, blah, blah. So this is where you do that in the cycle, in the follicular phase. Then in the ovulatory phase, because of the sharp rise in estrogen and FSH, you have the best access to your social and verbal centers of your brain. So there's a lot to be done during the ovulatory phase that you want to plan time for, like networking or negotiating or presenting or pitching or any of the, brainstorming with your team, anything that's going to allow you to leverage your natural strengths of social and verbal energy, right? And plan for that. You're gonna, like if you can go to any event or create a presentation or schedule something at that time, it's just going to be so energizing for you. And you know that certain times of the month when you have to do things where you know that your energy is more inwardly focused, you have to go out and put your outward facing energy out there, it drains you. This is a wonderful way to that's one of the big benefits of cycle syncing as a productivity hack, is that the more you do it, the less drained you are month over month. Instead, you have increasing, cyclical energy every month. Instead of draining that battery until your machine shuts off and you have a health crisis, you're always renewing your energy. You're always plugging in that battery, the charger, by aligning with your cyclical phases, right? Okay, so that's the ovulation phase. Then there's the luteal phase, which is the longest phase of the cycle, because we need the longest amount of time to actually bring things to fruition. And with the introduction of progesterone in our brain chemistry, we're very interested in being detail-oriented and completion-oriented. So you derive a lot of pleasure from finishing things. So at work, that could just be getting the things done that you said you were going to do at the beginning of the month. And it feels really satisfying to check things off your to-do list during this 10 to 12 day period like no other. So make time, carve out time for that deep work that success coaches talk a lot about, being so critical for you to have a lot of time for deep work. Do it during the luteal phase. And then finally, we have the menstrual phase, which is a really special time from a brain chemistry point of view because you have the most connection between the right and left hemispheres of the brain, which makes you more primed to evaluate and really analyze everything that you've been producing to see if it's the right stuff to be focusing on. I cannot tell you in all the years I've had my company how many times I've had to evaluate and pivot, different areas of the business. And I always get my moments, or I always get that information of how we need to change during my bleeding weeks. I plan for it. I sit down. I look at the data. I have special meetings during that time with specific team members. I really leverage this phase to the hilt because it's got so much gold. This is where I stop, look, and listen and really deeply take into account all the different moving parts. I'm going to get to that, Kayla, and really make a plan. So what this does for me is that it gives me permission to focus on the things that feel easy and that I'm interested in each phase, which makes me more efficient when I'm doing those activities, right? Like, have you ever sat down to try to make a project map when you just weren't there and it just took you all afternoon and it's not even that good? So instead of going against the grain or swimming upstream or whatever analogy you want to use, when you're always going with your flow, you bang things out and they're good. The quality is good, the creativity is high, you're on point mentally, and you feel satisfied and fulfilled with your work product. And then you have more time. That's the other thing. We always feel like we don't have enough time in our 24-hour construct, but when you add in that second clock, you get a lot of time back. And it's not linear. It's like quantum time. You get more things done with ease. And then if there are other things that you have to do that are not phase ideal, you have plenty of time and energy to do those too. It's really a wonderful, wonderful way to build energy, to increase your productivity, and to feel good doing it. And oh yeah, by the way, best side effect of all is you don't burn out your battery so that your machine shuts down, right? And that can look like a health crisis. That can look like getting a flu. You know what happens, right? You've had these experiences where you push and go, and then boom, you get hit with something like, oh gosh, I've heard women say, oh, I don't know, out of the blue they get the shingles or mono or the big cold or flu. It just takes them out for weeks. You know, and Oprah talks about this, like if you don't listen, you get a little tap, and then if you don't listen some more, you get a big slap, right? So there are many ways in which I'm sure you've already experienced the energetic smackdown. When you cycle sync your work and productivity, and you never have to really go through that because you're always doing a balance between pushing and resting, growing and harvesting. And if you think about it in nature too, I mean, there's never anything in nature that just grows continuously, right? It's just not, it's unnatural that you would push all the time. And so it's really, really important to give this a try. So this for me was one of the biggest, most exciting shifts that I made. It reconnected me with that sort of very creative, like life force energy. Here's one other great example I can give you. So we all know, for example, one of the things that drove the Industrial Revolution was the invention of the wheel, right? That was used in creating electricity by harnessing the energy of water and turning water into electricity, right? Wheel energy, cyclical energy, is one of the most powerful forces, right? If you were to push a hockey puck across a flat surface, eventually that hockey puck would slow down and stop. But if you were to just turn a wheel across a flat surface that had no wall anywhere in the distance, it would just keep going, and it would pick up speed as it went, as opposed to the hockey puck, which would slow down. You have this inner wheel, and so you will pick up speed and get more done as you go through each cycle. So that's really exciting. For me, that's how I feel like I'm able to do so much. I have a child, a husband, a company with lots of team members. I write, I speak, I develop products, I launch things multiple times a year. There's a lot that I'm always doing. I take care of myself, but I do it not based on there's 24 hours in a day. I've abandoned this idea of time, and I've embraced this idea of timing, that I have 2 biorhythmic clocks that need to be addressed. And when I work with them, I get so much more done, and I always feel my best. And that adopting this cyclical structure that includes my body is a paradigm shift that I think in our patriarchal culture is needed, right? We need to include the feminine more. And it's the same structure and the same practice that allows me not to get sucked back in to that masculine 24-hour model or the perfectionism thing. And it affects every aspect, not just how I work, but how I parent, how I do my romantic relationship. And it's just one of the greatest gifts that I think I have received from my sort of lifelong relationship with my hormones. Being really aligned with my cyclical phases has made me a much more calm and centered person, and allowed me to also pursue my dreams and desires with, anybody who knows me will tell you I have just a voracious appetite for creating things, but I am able to do it in a way that is very sustainable for my health, because I do have, like many of you, a real hormonal limitation. I'm a very hormonally sensitive person. If I don't take care of my hormones, I know that I can start having symptoms come back very easily. So for me, this practice of taking care of my body in a cyclical way and living my work and creative and productive life in a cyclical way is the key for health and happiness and success. And I really encourage you to give it a try. In fact, some of you have been typing about it. We did just launch our very first ever cycle syncing membership called Flow 28, which we're only keeping the doors open till this Saturday. So if you want more support in the deeper dive around cycle syncing, where you'll get, weekly recipes based on your phase, streamed video workouts based on your phase, the whole time management, productivity piece, you're going to get my daily planner based on, where you are in the cycle, all of that, plus more coaching from me on how to really apply this to every area of your life. That's what Flow 28 is all about. And you can learn about that right directly at, I'm going to just type it out for you, at the following link. And then if you're curious, to learn more about, just making sure I spelled that right. If you're curious to learn more about cycle syncing as a whole, I also put together a very new masterclass series that will also only be up until this Saturday. And you can register to receive all of the 4 free videos in the class. It's totally free at the following link. So you can just learn more about it if this is something that you haven't come across before. And again, it's totally free, but it's only going to be available till Saturday. Here we go. I'm getting better at typing and talking at the same time. So the second link where it says /register, that's where you can drop in your email and you'll get sent 4 videos on this special cycle syncing masterclass series that I put together. If you're someone who's like, I'm ready, I've been using the app, I've been trying to do this on my own, but I need more support, and you're ready to join me and several hundred other women who have already registered for the Flow 28 program, do that before Saturday at the first link, which is just cyclesyncingmembership.com. And I'm really excited to be in a group of so many women around the world who are ready to shift themselves into this new paradigm of productivity and success without burning ourselves out, not just because it's more sustainable and efficient and, of course, logical and smarter to work this way from our scientific, factual point of view, but because it's time for us to just simply include our experience of reality into the culture. We are never going to get there by waiting for institutions to change, because they just have like a blind spot about this because they don't have this second biorhythmic clock. So in order for our culture to include it, we have to include it in our own personal lives. And so I'm really excited about the ripple effect that will come from thousands of women around the world who are going to be shifting that paradigm within their own lives and their spheres of influence, because you know how we are as women. Once we know something is working, we share that with the people and the women that we love. So I can only imagine what kind of shift in our culture this might start to bring. So I'm excited for that. And if you're up for, just really biohacking all areas of your life, your diet, your fitness. If you are curious more about that, you can watch last week's Facebook Live on the cycle syncing your diet and fitness routine and why that's so important. But if you're ready to do the ultimate female biohacking with me, the Flow 28 membership is that place. And it's really, again, only open till Saturday because we just kind of want to get this first group going. And, we'll go from there. But I'm excited, and I hope that you check it out and learn more about it. But in the meantime, you have the app and you have Woman Code to continue to inspire your own journey with cyclical living. And I hope that you do start to experiment more with that, with your productivity, with your creativity, because what's waiting for you on the other side of the 24-hour clock and embracing both of your biorhythmic clocks is just a completely different life. the one that you've been waiting for, the one that you've been searching for, the one that you've done all the retreats and the courses and read the books and tried the different systems and the diets and the fitness plans and the time management and the spiritual practices, all the things that you've been trying to grasp at to fill this space, this confusion, this missing puzzle piece. All that's been missing is the science of your second biorhythmic clock. That's it. Once you have that back in place, everything makes sense. The picture is perfectly clear. There's nothing missing. Nothing has ever been missing in your life. You just need to use both clocks. And then everything starts to flow the way that nature designed it to be. So, until I speak to you next time, take really good care of yourselves and your ovaries, and we'll be back next week with another juicy conversation about how to live healthier and smarter with female hormones. Bye.